Control, we have multiple casualties. We're pinned down. The radio transmission from SEAL Team 7 cut off in a burst of static and automatic weapons fire. Somewhere in the dense forests of an unnamed Eastern European country, 8 elite operators were dying in a perfectly executed ambush, surrounded by an enemy force 3 times their size. Every other asset was too far away. Air support was grounded by weather. The quick reaction force wouldn't arrive in time, but there was one person close enough to help, a person the SEAL commander had specifically requested not be assigned to his operation. Staff Sergeant Nova Martinez, 26 years old, the sniper the entire special operations community whispered about but refused to fully trust. Too young, they said, too unproven, too female. But in the next 4 hours, as Nova moved through that forest like a ghost, her suppressed rifle speaking in whispers that meant death, she would teach everyone a lesson they'd never forget. The most dangerous predator in any forest is the one you never see coming. And when you're a SEAL team surrounded by enemies who think they've won, sometimes your salvation comes not with a roar, but with the silent, precise work of a sniper who refuses to let warriors die on her watch. Staff Sergeant Nova Martinez lay perfectly still in her hide position, her breathing slow and controlled, her M110 semi-automatic sniper system resting on its bipod with the kind of familiarity that came from thousands of hours of practice. At 26, she'd been a sniper for 4 years, had logged over 200 combat missions, and had 43 confirmed kills, numbers that should have earned respect. But in the male-dominated world of special operations support, respect was something she had to fight for every single day. She was small, 5'6", lean and athletic, with dark hair pulled back in a tight braid and brown eyes that could spot movement at distances that made other snipers shake their heads in disbelief. Her call sign was Ghost, earned not because she was quiet, but because enemy fighters kept dying without ever knowing she was there. Today's mission was supposed to be simple: provide overwatch for SEAL Team 7 as they conducted reconnaissance on a suspected enemy supply route deep in the forest. The SEALs would move through, gather intelligence, and extract. Nova would watch from distance, invisible in the tree line, her rifle ready but hopefully unnecessary. The team leader, Lieutenant Commander James Vance, had made his feelings clear during the pre-mission briefing. "I want Henderson on Overwatch," he told the operations officer. "Not the girl. Martinez is our best available sniper," the ops officer had replied. "Henderson is on another mission. Then get someone else, anyone else." Vance's jaw had been set, his mind made up. This is a Tier 1 operation. We need someone we can count on, not some diversity hire who will freeze up when the shooting starts. Nova had been standing right there, had heard every word, had felt the familiar sting of dismissal based not on her record, but on her gender. She'd said nothing, had simply waited for orders because arguing would only confirm their biases. The ops officer had stood firm. "Martinez goes. She's the best we have available, and your team needs Overwatch." End of discussion. Now, 12 hours later, Nova was in position on a ridge overlooking the valley where Team 7 was operating. Through her scope, she could see them moving through the forest below, 8 shadows in tactical gear, advancing in perfect formation, professionals doing what they did best. Her radio crackled softly. "Ghost, this is 7 Actual. We're approaching waypoint Charlie. Any movement in your sector?" Nova swept her scope across the terrain, checking sightlines, looking for anything out of place. 7 Actual, Ghost, your route is clear. No contacts visible. Copy. Vance's voice was cold, professional, but she could hear the underlying skepticism. He didn't trust her, didn't want her there, and wasn't hiding it. Nova pushed the feelings aside and focused on the mission. Her job wasn't to earn Vance's approval. Her job was to keep his team alive. The SEALs moved deeper into the valley, following a trail that intelligence suggested was used for enemy supply movements. Nova tracked them through her scope, constantly scanning, watching for threats. That's when she saw it. Movement, not much, just a slight disturbance in the underbrush about 200 meters to the SEALs' left flank, then another to their right, and another ahead of them. Nova's heart rate increased slightly, but her hands remained steady. She zoomed in on the movement and felt ice form in her stomach. Approximately 30 enemy fighters moving through the forest with tactical precision, surrounding the SEAL team in a classic ambush formation. The SEALs were walking into a perfectly laid trap. 7 Actual, Ghost, stop movement immediately. Nova's voice was urgent but controlled. You have approximately 30 hostiles moving to ambush positions around your location. They're setting up a kill zone. There was a pause, then Vance's skeptical voice. Ghost, we have no visual on any hostiles. Are you certain? Affirmative. I count at least 30 fighters, possibly more, in concealed positions forming a perimeter around you. They're waiting for you to move further into the kill zone before they spring it. Another pause. Nova could imagine the internal debate. Trust the female sniper he'd already dismissed or trust his own team's observations. Ghost, we're not seeing anything. Maintain your position. And the world exploded. The enemy ambush was triggered by one of the SEALs stepping on a pressure plate IED. The explosion was massive, throwing bodies and equipment through the air. Immediately, automatic weapons fire erupted from all sides as the enemy fighters opened up on the stunned Americans. Contact! Contact! We're under heavy fire. Vance's voice was no longer skeptical, just desperate. Multiple casualties were pinned down. Through her scope, Nova could see the nightmare unfolding. The SEALs had taken cover behind fallen logs and rocks, but they were completely surrounded, outnumbered at least 4 to 1, with wounded men and limited ammunition. Control, this is 7 Actual. We are under attack by a superior force. We have casualties and need immediate support. The response from command was devastating. 7 Actual, weather is grounded, all air support. QRF is mobilizing, but ETA is 45 minutes. You need to hold your position. 45 minutes. The SEALs would be dead in 10. Nova made a decision. 7 Actual, this is Ghost. I'm engaging. Negative, Ghost. You're one shooter against 30 plus hostiles. You need to, with respect, sir, you're about to die if someone doesn't do something. Nova was already adjusting her position, calculating ranges, identifying targets. I can see the whole battlefield. You can't. Trust me or don't, but I'm engaging. She didn't wait for a response. Through her scope, Nova identified the first target, an enemy fighter with an RPG preparing to fire at the SEAL position. Range 387 meters, wind 3 miles per hour from the east, elevation slight downward angle. Nova's breathing slowed, her finger rested lightly on the trigger. The world narrowed to just her, the rifle, and the target. She squeezed. The suppressed rifle coughed, a sound more like a heavy breath than a gunshot. Through her scope, Nova saw the RPG fighter drop, a neat hole in his forehead. One down. She shifted, found the next target, a machine gunner pouring fire into the SEAL position. Range 412 meters, adjusted for wind, squeezed. 2 down. Nova moved through the enemy positions like death incarnate. Her suppressed rifle spoke in whispers, each whisper meaning another enemy fighter dropped. The enemy had no idea where the shots were coming from, no muzzle flash to locate, no sound signature to track, just their fighters dying one by one. Ghost, what the hell are you doing? Vance's voice held a mixture of awe and disbelief. They're dropping like flies. Doing my job, sir. Nova found another target, squeezed. Stay down and let me work. 3 down, 4 down, 5 down. The enemy fighters began to realize something was wrong. Their comrades were dying without any indication of where the fire was coming from. Confusion spread through their ranks. Nova used that confusion ruthlessly. She shifted position slightly, moving along the ridge line to get different angles, never staying in one place long enough to be located. 6 down, 7 down, 8 down. An enemy officer emerged from cover trying to rally his fighters, pointing and shouting orders. Nova put a round through his chest at 434 meters. 9 down. The enemy formation was starting to collapse. They'd come prepared to slaughter 8 trapped Americans. They hadn't come prepared to be hunted by an invisible predator picking them off with surgical precision. 7 Actual, the enemy is breaking on your western flank, Nova reported calmly, even as she dropped the 10th fighter. If you can push that direction, you can break out of the kill zone. We have 3 wounded who can't move fast. Then the other 5 provide covering fire while I keep the enemy suppressed. Move in 30 seconds on my mark. Ghost, there are still at least 20 hostiles out there. Not for long. Nova's voice was ice-cold calm. Mark in 3, 2, 1, mark. The 5 mobile SEALs opened fire, their controlled bursts providing covering fire as they began to move their wounded toward the western edge of the kill zone. The enemy fighters tried to respond, tried to cut them off. Nova didn't let them. Every time an enemy fighter rose to fire, Nova put him down. 11, 12, 13. Her rifle spoke its quiet language of death, each shot perfectly placed, each shot claiming a life. "They're running," one of the SEALs shouted. "The hostiles are retreating." It was true. The enemy force, which had started with overwhelming numerical superiority and perfect tactical positioning, was breaking under the psychological pressure of being hunted by someone they couldn't see or locate. They'd lost nearly half their force to an invisible sniper, and their will to fight evaporated. 7 actual, enemy forces in full retreat, Nova reported. "Continue moving west. I'll cover your extraction, Ghost." Vance's voice was different now, filled with something that might have been respect or wonder or both. "How many did you?" 13 confirmed. "Focus on getting your wounded out, sir. We can count later." The SEALs moved through the forest carrying their wounded while Nova maintained overwatch. Twice more, enemy fighters tried to regroup for a counterattack. Twice more, Nova's rifle whispered and they fell. 15 confirmed kills. By the time the SEALs reached the extraction point, the enemy force had completely disintegrated. What had been a well-organized ambush force of 30-plus fighters was now scattered remnants fleeing through the forest, wanting nothing more than to escape the ghost that had decimated their ranks. The QRF arrived with medical helicopters, loading the wounded SEALs for transport. Nova remained in her overwatch position until everyone was safely aboard, then quietly made her way down from the ridge to the extraction point. When she emerged from the tree line, rifle slung across her back, the SEALs who were still mobile turned to look at her. These hard men, elite warriors who'd seen more combat than most soldiers would in 3 careers, looked at her with expressions ranging from shocked awe to something approaching reverence. Lieutenant Commander Vance approached her, limping slightly from a wound to his leg. His face was covered in dirt and blood, none of it his own, and his eyes held an expression Nova had never seen directed at her before, genuine respect mixed with something like shame. "Staff Sergeant Martinez," he said formally, then stopped, struggling for words. Nova stood at attention, professional, despite the exhaustion seeping into her bones. "Sir." Vance looked at her for a long moment, then slowly extended his hand. "I owe you an apology, and I owe you my life, along with the lives of 7 other men." Nova shook his hand. "Just doing my job, sir." "Your job?" Vance laughed, a sound without humor. "Your job. Do you know what you just did? You engaged a superior enemy force single-handedly. You eliminated 15 hostile combatants, 15, with precision fire from distance while they had no idea where you were. You turned a complete tactical disaster into a successful extraction with no friendly Kia." His voice grew quieter. "And you did it after I specifically requested you not be assigned to this mission because I didn't think a woman could handle the pressure." The other SEALs had gathered around now, listening. One of them, a younger operator with a bandaged arm, spoke up. "LT, before the mission, I heard you say Martinez would freeze up when the shooting started." "I did say that," Vance acknowledged, not looking away from Nova. "I was wrong, completely, absolutely, inexcusably wrong." He turned to address his entire team. "Listen up. Today we learned something important. We learned that prejudice can kill you. We learned that assumptions based on gender rather than skill are not just wrong, they're deadly. And we learned that Staff Sergeant Nova Martinez is not just a competent sniper, she's one of the best I've ever seen operate." He turned back to Nova. "I don't know how you did what you did out there. 15 kills while moving positions, maintaining perfect accuracy, tracking multiple targets across a dynamic battlefield, all while providing tactical guidance over comms. That's not just good shooting, that's mastery. Sir, let me finish." Vance's voice was firm but not unkind. "Before today, I didn't want you on my team. After today, I'm requesting you be permanently assigned to Team 7 support operations, if you're willing." Nova looked at him, then at the other SEALs. She saw the nods, the respect in their eyes, the acknowledgement of a warrior who'd proven herself when it mattered most. "I'd be honored, sir." One of the SEALs, a burly operator everyone called Brick, stepped forward. "Martinez, I got to ask, how the hell did you spot that ambush before we did?" We had point men, we had all our sensors, and we saw nothing. But you saw them from what, 800 meters away? Nova allowed herself a small smile. Sir, with respect, you were looking for an enemy in front of you. I was looking for an enemy everywhere. And I wasn't just looking, I was reading the forest. The way the birds went quiet in certain areas, the unnatural stillness, the slight compression of vegetation where fighters had taken positions. You have to see what's not there as much as what is. Jesus, Brick muttered. How long have you been doing this? My whole life, sir. I grew up in rural Montana. My father was a hunting guide. He taught me to track elk through mountains, to see the signs most people miss. The military just gave me better tools and more dangerous targets. Another SEAL, the team medic called Doc, spoke up. Those shots you made, some of them had to be over 400 meters through forest cover, with wind, moving targets. That's not normal. Normal is what you make it, sir. I practice 8 hours a day when I'm not on mission. I know my rifle like it's part of my body. I know exactly what it will do at every range, in every condition. And I don't take shots I'm not certain of. 15 for 15, Vance said quietly. 15 shots, 15 kills. Perfect performance under the worst possible conditions. He shook his head in amazement. The brass needs to know about this. What you did today is going into reports that will reach the Pentagon. Sir, I'd prefer to just do my job quietly. Too late for that, Martinez. Vance actually smiled. You just became famous in the special operations community. The sniper who saved SEAL Team 7, the ghost who hunted the hunters. Over the next several hours, as the team was debriefed and the wounded were treated, more details emerged about Nova's performance. Analysis of her rifle's data log showed that her shots had ranged from 287 meters to 458 meters. She had engaged 15 targets across a 600-meter spread of terrain while simultaneously moving her own position 3 times to maintain optimal firing angles. Her average time between shots was 18 seconds, accounting for target acquisition, range calculation, wind adjustment, and the shot itself. These numbers are insane, the operations officer said, reviewing the data. This is sniper performance at a level we rarely see, even from our most experienced shooters. And you did this at 26 years old in your first hot engagement supporting SEALs. No, sir, Nova corrected. This was my 47th combat mission, just my first supporting Team 7. The ops officer looked at her records more carefully, seeing details he'd apparently overlooked before. Jesus. 47 missions, 43 confirmed kills before today, multiple commendations, combat action badge. Why the hell aren't you already at the advanced sniper course? I've applied 3 times, sir, denied each time. On what grounds? Nova met his eyes steadily. The official reason given was operational needs. The unofficial reason, according to the course commander I spoke with, was that they weren't sure how a female would handle the pressure of the advanced course. The ops officer's expression darkened. That's about to change. I'm putting you in for the advanced course effective immediately, and I'm personally calling the course commander to ensure your application is approved. What happened today proves you don't just handle pressure, you thrive under it. 3 days later, Nova was called to a meeting at the forward operating base. She expected another debriefing, maybe some additional questions about the engagement. Instead, she walked into a room filled with senior officers, including several she recognized from their photos. The Regional Special Operations Commander, the Task Force Commanding Officer, and to her surprise, a 2-star general she didn't recognize. Everyone stood at attention as she entered. Nova saluted, confused by the formality. The general returned her salute, then smiled. At ease, Staff Sergeant. I'm General Patricia Hawthorne, Commanding General of the Special Operations Forces Command. I flew in specifically to meet you. Ma'am, I've read the reports from the Team 7 engagement, multiple times. Actually, because frankly, I had trouble believing them. Hawthorne approached Nova, studying her with sharp eyes. 15 enemy combatants eliminated with 15 shots, 0 friendly Kia, a SEAL team extracted safely from what should have been a massacre. And you accomplished this despite the team leader specifically requesting you not be assigned because he didn't trust a female sniper. I was just doing my job, ma'am. Your job. Hawthorne smiled slightly. Yes, I've heard you say that. But Staff Sergeant Martinez, what you did goes far beyond just doing your job. You demonstrated tactical awareness, marksmanship, and decision-making under pressure that ranks among the best sniper performances I've ever seen documented. And I've been in special operations for 24 years. She paused, then continued. I also understand you've been denied advancement to the Advanced Sniper course 3 times despite a record that should have made you a shoo-in. Yes, ma'am, that ends now. You're not just going to the advanced course, you're being assigned to the Special Operations Sniper Training Battalion as an instructor. We need someone who can teach the next generation not just how to shoot, but how to think like you do, how to see what others miss, how to perform under impossible pressure. Nova's eyes widened. Ma'am, I'm honored, but I'm not sure I'm qualified to. You're not sure. Hawthorne's voice was sharp but not unkind. Staff Sergeant, you just saved 8 lives while being actively doubted by the people you were protecting. You performed sniper operations that other qualified snipers are calling impossible. And you did it all while carrying the weight of being a woman in a field that constantly questions whether you belong. If that doesn't qualify you to teach, I don't know what does. Lieutenant Commander Vance stepped forward. Nova hadn't noticed him in the room. General, if I may. Go ahead, Commander. Vance turned to Nova. Martinez, I've submitted a formal request that you be awarded the Silver Star for your actions. You engaged a superior enemy force to protect friendly personnel at great risk to yourself. You demonstrated exceptional courage and skill, and you saved 8 American lives, including mine. He paused, his voice growing emotional. But more than that, you taught me something I should have known already. You taught me that warriors come in all forms, and the most dangerous mistake a commander can make is to judge capability based on gender rather than skill. He extended his hand again. Thank you for saving my team, and thank you for making me a better officer. Nova shook his hand, deeply moved. Sir, you were willing to learn. That's what matters. General Hawthorne spoke again. Staff Sergeant Martinez, there's one more thing. The community you're about to enter, advanced snipers, special operations instructors, is even more male-dominated than where you've been. You're going to face skepticism, resistance, and people who think you don't belong. How do you plan to handle that? Nova thought for a moment, then replied with quiet confidence. The same way I always have, ma'am. By doing my job to the best of my ability, by proving my worth through performance rather than words, and by remembering that I don't need everyone to believe in me. I just need to believe in myself. The results will speak for themselves. Hawthorne smiled broadly. Outstanding answer. Welcome to the Advanced Special Operations community, Staff Sergeant. You've earned your place here. Now go show everyone else what we already know, that excellence has no gender. The meeting concluded, and as Nova left the room, she was stopped by Brick, the burly SEAL from Team 7. Hey, Martinez, got something for you. He held out a small patch, the SEAL Trident insignia. Sir, I can't accept that. I'm not a SEAL. No, you're not, but your family now. You bled for us, fought for us, saved us. In our world, that makes you one of us, even if you never went through Bud S. He pressed the patch into her hand. Besides, there's an inscription on the back. Nova turned it over and read, to Ghost, the sniper who saved Team 7. With respect and gratitude, Team 7. Cheers threatened, but Nova blinked them back. Thank you, sir. No, Martinez, thank you. Brick's voice was gruff with emotion. We were dead, all of us. And you brought us home. That's not something we'll ever forget. As Nova walked across the base toward her quarters, the SEAL patch in her pocket and a future as an instructor ahead of her, she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. Every doubt, every dismissal, every time someone had questioned whether she belonged, all of it had led to this moment. She thought about the girl from Montana who'd learned to track elk through mountains, who'd spent countless hours perfecting her craft while others assumed she was too small, too weak, too female to be a warrior. She thought about the 15 enemy fighters who'd learned too late that the most dangerous predator in any forest isn't the biggest or the loudest, it's the one you never see coming. And she thought about the 8 SEALs who were alive right now because she'd refused to accept that she didn't belong, because she'd proven her worth when it mattered most, because she'd done her job with a skill that forced even skeptics to acknowledge her excellence. Nova Martinez had been called many things in her career. Too young, too small, too female, unproven, unreliable, a diversity hire who'd freeze under pressure. But after that day in the forest, she'd be called something else. Ghost, the legendary sniper who'd hunted the hunters, who'd saved Team 7, who'd proven that warriors come in all forms, the woman who'd earned her place among the elite not by demanding respect, but by performing with such skill that respect was the only possible response. And somewhere in a briefing room in the Pentagon, senior officers were reading reports about a 26-year-old female sniper who'd engaged and eliminated 15 enemy combatants with perfect precision while under fire, changing what they thought they knew about women in combat. The world was changing, slowly but surely, and Nova Martinez had just helped push it forward, one perfect shot at a time. Because sometimes the best way to break down barriers isn't to fight them directly, sometimes it's to simply be so undeniably excellent that the barriers crumble under the weight of your performance. And when you're a sniper, excellence is measured in lives saved and enemies eliminated. 15 for 15, perfect performance. A voice called out behind her. Martinez, wait up. Nova turned to see Doc, the team medic, jogging toward her. He was carrying something wrapped in canvas. Got a minute? He asked, slightly out of breath. Of course, sir. Stop with the sir. You saved my life. Call me Doc. Like everyone else, he held out the wrapped object. The team wanted you to have this. Nova unwrapped it carefully and found herself holding a custom-made rifle case. Burned into the leather was an inscription. SSG Nova. Ghost, Martinez, SEAL Team 7 Guardian Angel, 15-0. We had it made at the base leather shop, Doc explained. Figured your rifle deserves a case that reflects what it did for us, what you did for us. Nova ran her fingers over the inscription, emotion threatening to overwhelm her professional composure. Doc, this is, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just keep being the badass sniper who doesn't let good men die on her watch. Doc's voice grew serious. You know what the guys are saying. They're saying that having you on Overwatch is like having a guardian angel with a rifle. They feel safer knowing Ghost is watching over them. That's what I'm here for, Nova managed, her voice tight. No, you're here because you're exceptional at what you do. The guardian angel thing is just a bonus. Doc grinned. Oh, and Vance wanted me to tell you something. He's already submitted paperwork to have you assigned permanently to Team 7 operations. Every mission, every deployment. He said, and I quote, I was stupid enough to doubt her once. I won't make that mistake again. Nova smiled despite the emotions churning inside her. Tell him I accept. Already figured you would. Doc clasped her shoulder. Welcome to the family, Ghost. And thanks for keeping us alive long enough to appreciate having you around. As Doc walked away, Nova stood alone in the fading light, holding the rifle case that represented more than just recognition. It represented acceptance, respect, and the acknowledgement that she had earned her place among warriors through skill and courage that couldn't be denied. She thought about tomorrow, about the advanced sniper course, about becoming an instructor, about all the young shooters, male and female, she'd help train. She thought about the lessons she'd teach them, not just about windage and elevation, but about perseverance and proving yourself through excellence. Her phone buzzed. A text from her father back in Montana. Heard through the grapevine something happened overseas. You okay, kiddo? Nova smiled and typed back. Better than okay, Dad. I finally got to show them what you taught me. Turns out tracking elk in the mountains translates pretty well to other kinds of hunting. His response was immediate. That's my girl. Your mother would be so proud. Hell, I'm proud. Love you. Love you too, Dad. Nova looked up at the darkening sky where the first stars were beginning to appear. Somewhere out there, in forests and mountains and battlefields she hadn't seen yet, there were warriors who would need her skills. There were lives to be saved and enemies to be stopped. And she was ready, not because she had something to prove anymore. She'd already done that, but because this was who she was. A sniper, a protector, a ghost who watched over those who needed watching over. Nova Martinez walked toward her quarters, rifle case in hand, seal patch in her pocket, and a future full of possibilities ahead of her. Behind her was the sniper everyone had doubted. Ahead of her was the legend she'd become. And in the forest where 15 enemies had fallen and 8 seals had lived, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying the story of the day a ghost had proven that the deadliest warrior isn't always the one you expect. Sometimes it's the quiet woman with a rifle who refuses to let good people die. Sometimes it's the hunter nobody saw coming. Sometimes it's exactly the person everyone underestimated. And that, Nova knew with absolute certainty, was just fine with her.